recruiting is a really awesome thing for me because not only can I make a good living doing it, but I can
Mm,
also make an impact in the people that I
mm.
involved with. I don't think that Americans really realize how large manufacturing was in our general economies, right? Which that's the way I look at challenges is a growth opportunity. At the end of the day, finding people is the same no matter what industry. Yeah, the processes may differ and the terminology may differ a little, but it's at the root of it, it's the same thing. So that's where we separate ourselves is becoming industry experts. You see a championship team and you just want to be on it. You want to play with those people. You want
Yeah.
to practice with those people. Anyone trying to make it in the recruiting business is you got to take care of yourself as well. One piece of advice I'd give to anybody around, growing in the recruiting industry or really anything in general, it's like,
Welcome to the Future Minds podcast.
So we have Caleb today on Future Minds podcast, a very interesting guest. So he's currently working for Mural Group currently as the partner of the company. Absolutely smashed his career, being very successful in recruiting. Caleb, how are you?
doing good, my friend. Luke, I appreciate you having me on today. And yeah, just excited to chit chat with you a little, talk through my
Yeah.
story and how we got here, and hopefully add some value to whoever's listening there. So
No,
yeah,
100%.
appreciate
And
that.
that's why you're on here today, right? You've had a successful career. It'll be interesting for anyone, watching the podcast to understand your background and how you've got to where you are today as well. But first of all, before we kick off, I mean, just so people get an understanding. So, of course, I know you do the industrial manufacturing recruiting industry. What does it consist of and what focus areas of recruitment do you have there?
Yeah, good question. And happy to unpack. You know, industrial is a pretty broad term. It can hit on a variety of different businesses that are both primary contributors to our industrial economy and also ancillary contributors. So, working with manufacturing companies is a large part of that. Anyone that makes some sort of product, whether it be consumer, industrial, that's a large part of the industrial
Yeah.
business. Now, around that, there's a lot of ancillary pieces that I mentioned. You know, you got the distribution and logistics piece of it, you have the construction piece of it, and then you have a ton of different suppliers within that. So, um, I think as you may see in news recent, there's a huge push to bring a lot of manufacturing back to the United States, and I don't think that your broad macro view of the economy. I don't think that Americans really realize how large manufacturing was in our general economy. So it's been really cool to see just the recent things that we've been doing to strengthen the backbone of our country there. And yeah, that's part of the reason I enjoy serving in that industry. I come from a family where my dad worked in manufacturing and I've been around
Nice.
construction. So it's really full circle to be a resource in the industry, especially on the recruiting side, because
Yeah.
with all the advancements and also all the restructuring that's going on in that world, it's a fun time to be in recruiting, and we can make a big impact with our clients and the candidates we serve.
Yeah, I was going to say that works in your favor, right? The way the market's going, I mean, you're just going to be busier. That means more commission, more deals. So happy days for you. And in terms of the areas of recruitment, so this is contract and perm, or is it just contracts?
Do a mix of recruiting and staffing, in
Okay.
addition to some consulting services. So one of the big markers of the Mural Group is the recruiting expertise that we've amassed in our team, and the three founders, myself, Randy, Kyle, and Joe. I come from a staffing firm kind of background. That's where I worked my way up the ladder. All three of those have been head of talent at some sort of large company like a Amazon or a Starbucks or an Uber or something of that nature. So they've kind of seen it from the
Nice.
lens of the internal team.
Mm.
Um, and we're trying to that's what we bring in that consulting piece is, a higher level understanding of the HR and recruiting processes that get people there. So it's a mix, right? Traditional
Yeah.
contract to hire and direct hire services. But we mix in a little consulting there just to add some additional impact.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. And then, of course, your career, like I say, you've had a very successful career and done multiple placements in your career as well, right? How is
Mhm.
it? So how is it you started off in the recruitment industry, and how did you get to where you are today? You know, founder of a company, doing very well for yourself, and of course, helping with a grow out of a company as well.
Mhm. Yeah, good question. And I feel like a ton of people in the recruiting industry will shake their head when I say this, but I never really intended to get into recruiting. I graduated with a finance and management degree and
Oh wow.
got a poli-sci minor and thought I was going to go to law school and all this, that, and the other. And just the way things worked out, I got an opportunity as an entry-level recruiter salesperson. I was doing construction staffing, which I had actually done some construction classes in college, so it's something I understood and just saw the opportunity ahead. And I tell a lot of people that I talk about this is like, recruiting is a really awesome thing for me because not only can I make a good living doing it, but I can
Mm,
also make an impact in the people that
mm,
get involved with, right? Like the clients, yeah, we can help them hit goals, we can help them grow their company. The candidates, like what a marker moment it is
mm,
for somebody to take a step up in their career or, get on a shift where they can spend some more time with their family. So it's something that kind of filled two buckets for me. Like I could make my way in the business world, but I could also have some moral impact. So I think that's why I gravitated to it.
mm,
And to kind of make a long story short, I came up in a very competitive environment. I worked for a very large firm. It was, very activity oriented, very go, go,
mm,
go. We got to hit certain numbers. And, that unlocked the potential that I saw in the recruiting industry because I noticed how many people we could impact and the great financial payoff on that. So,
yeah.
when I saw the opportunity, I just started going for it. I kind of reflected after a couple years into it, after I got into the sales side and started managing a team. I was like, do I want to go back into law school like I had intended? And I was like, man, the brick road is paved golden ahead here. So like, I'm gonna keep on trucking and see where it takes me. And I've been blessed to be surrounded by great people in the industry as
Mm,
well, which has really helped buoy my growth. And one piece of advice I'd give to anybody around, growing in the recruiting industry or really anything in general, it's like you are who you surround yourself with. And if you want to get to the next level, you've got to start rubbing elbows with those individuals and seeing what got them there and learning the tricks of the trade and what makes people successful. But also lean on the clients and the people that you serve for feedback and growth opportunities as well, because you got to look at things from multiple perspectives, especially in a high growth mentality. And, sometimes in the recruiting world, there's a high level of EQ and emotional intelligence that comes with what we do. Well, not everybody operates the same way, right? So I'm thinking high growth mentality. I got to go. We got to do all this. The person on the other end of the phone might be a lot more intentional and discerning in the way that they go about things. So, there's the added level of the people you surround yourself with and getting varying perspectives on where you want to be in your career. That'll help you get to, where you want to go. So I'm very long-winded, Luca. You can tell me to
Yeah,
shut
I
up.
was I was gonna say, honestly, you couldn't have said that any better. That thing about, who you surround yourself with. Like if you're surrounded by people that, they're billing 100K a year and that's the top earner, I mean, you're very capped. Whereas if you're in a company and you're, everyone's doing 2 million a year, that's where you want to get to. And it's gonna push you, push you, push you. And you'll get to there at the end of the day because to you it's normal. In your head, psychologically, it's normal. But that's interesting. And of course, you was at your old company for what, about 5 years, and then you took the next move. Was it about 5 years?
Yeah, running about on six. I was coming up on
Mm.
6 years, I think.
Yeah.
Like a month until my 6 year.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and I'll say this, like I mentioned earlier, I was blessed with great people at that company and I learned a ton. I really cut my teeth there and was able to hit multiple industries. Like I talked earlier, hit on construction, worked in manufacturing, worked in some commercial real estate spaces. So, I was really able to kind of learn the industry and get myself positioned to where I could make a move like I did with the Mural Group. And that was, just an opportunity that I wasn't expecting. but it made a lot of sense to me and the growth goals that I had personally. Um, and I had a chance to go and join a great team. I come from a sports background. I grew up playing sports, so you see a championship team, and you just want to be on it. You want to play with those people. You want
Yeah.
to practice with those people. You want to get better with those people. And I saw a championship team, so um, I made the move, and it's been nothing but great since I've done so. It's been a lot of work. It's been tons of challenges. Not only the recruiting challenges that we may allude to, but also just the challenges of starting a business and growing a brand and finding our place in the market. All of those things presented growth opportunities that maybe were not expected, right? Which that's the way I look at challenges is a growth opportunity. Um, so so yeah.
Yeah, completely. I I completely agree with that as well. Like, if you don't have challenges, you're not gonna learn. You've got to go through that stage, especially in recruitment as well. That's where you're gonna learn over and over and over. If you go through the whole 2 years and you've got no challenges, you're going to be very capped. You're just where you was at the start. Okay, your communication might get a bit better, but the challenges in recruitment are where you're like, okay, this is a problem. This is where next time I'm not going to mess up. And then, as a consultant, you just get better and better. And over that time as well, I know, of course, recruitment, like we say, is not the easiest job. And a lot of people think is, speak to a few people and suddenly your paycheck's 20 grand a month. Over the time, I mean, what were the kind of biggest challenges for you? I mean, first of all, when you was working for another company, and then we'll go into, where you're working now, being a founder of a company.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think at different times there are different challenges, right? And the thing about recruiting or I think really any kind of sales based kind of orientation, you're going to have a lot of like things that happen in the moment, right? And a lot of things that you're reacting to and you're making a quick call on. It would we would be here for a very long time if I talked about every recruiting challenge that I've been through. Um, but I mean, kind of looking more at the beginning of my career, I think it was really learning the EQ piece of it, right? Like, um, I did an internship selling life insurance, and a ton of the people that came into these entry level recruiting and sales roles had some previous sales experience, or maybe just it was their first job coming out of college, like myself. Um, so I didn't really understand how much what we did affected people and their decision making process. And I think that's something that, when you're selling maybe a product, it's a lot different where not only when you're working in the people side of the business, you're dealing with the normal sales rigor of securing
Mm,
contracts and working with stakeholders, but you also have, the conversation and for lack of a better term, the love that you have to put in to your candidate relationship,
mm,
right? Since that person is a representation of you. And that's something I hold wholeheartedly is,
mm,
the people that are working for me, they're going to know who I am. We're going
yeah.
to have a relation. We might not talk quite often, but they're going to know that we're here to support them in any way, shape, or form.
Mm,
And I'd say early on, that was something that I had to learn the hard way.
yeah.
Um, you go into everything, at least for me, with a high expectation of yourself and performing. And the thing about working in staffing is we can't sacrifice performance for, doing the correct and the moral thing to people that we
Yeah,
work with.
I agree.
Um, our people are everything. That's our brand. That's who we put our name on. That's our stake as a company. Obviously, the way that we do business means something as well, but you know how it is in the people business.
Yeah,
They're a reflection of the brand that you've built.
yeah,
Um, so
100%.
yeah, and now I would
100%.
say, kind of looking at where I'm at now, as
Mm,
founding partner and leading the industrial and sales division with the Mural Group. Um, I would say right now it's more of where to spend my time the most effectively. We're new. We've been in business for I think right at about 2 years, maybe two and a half, and we're still getting our footing in the marketplace. We're still growing our industrial headcount. We have some really lofty goals to really really boost things up this year, which I think we're tuned to hit and I'm excited for. But we've got to focus on pro really focus on prioritizing our best clients that we have true partnerships with, that the opportunities that we're working with are in line with what the market is saying people want to do, right? So we got to really hyper focus on growth and really at the bottom line, to be quite frank. And what that means is securing more contracts and filling more positions at the end of the day. But I think there's a lot of times where you can get, 6,000 different things thrown at
Yeah.
you. You slap a director or a partner title on your LinkedIn and you got 1,500 sales calls,
It's
people trying to
crazy.
get on your calendar. And I always try to, take care of my fellow sales folks. I'll hear them
Yeah.
out. There's only so many hours in a day, and we got so much
Yeah.
that we got to do.
Yeah.
So finding the right balance of time and um, things of that nature, I'd say is like probably one of my more prevalent challenges now.
Mm.
Um, and I think that answer to the question, Luca, could change on the day that you ask me. So ask me next week, it's probably different.
100%. It's different story. 100% different weeks with different challenges. I completely agree. And you're so right in saying that. I mean, it's you want to speak to everyone and give your time to everyone, especially is when you've got a big job on as well. But you've got to prioritize your time massively in recruitment. Because like you said, if you get a partner on, you've got it's going to be long-winded conversations, right? Minimum 30 minutes, some people. So it's like if you're back to back with, pick up the phone off, on the phone off, it's like you've only got so much time to do the business development, to do the meetings, to help your team to grow out a bit. There's so many different avenues that's why, prioritizing your time in recruitment is such a key factor. And if you don't, realistically, it's going to be hard to, be successful in recruitment. You'll do well, but you'll be fairly capped at where you go as well. And of course, going from working for a business, I mean, at what point or how many placements was you like, okay, you know what, I want to go be a founder for another company now to take that switch?
Man, that's a good question. I want to circle back on a point that came to mind when before you asked the question, is
Mm,
another piece of advice that I would give anyone trying to make it in the recruiting business is you got to take care of yourself as well. Like that's one thing that, from a high growth mentality that I've had, maybe not paid as much attention to like, taking care of myself
yeah,
mentally, physically, so on and so forth. Because to your point, and this is what made me think of it, you're on the phone constantly, you're talking to people, you're sharing energy with them, you're putting energy into them, you're getting energy out of them, this, that, and the other. Like I have to find some time to really just be with myself, and that
yeah,
means that's different things for different people, right? Myself, I'm a spiritual person,
I'm the
so
same.
that's where I'm getting and really
Yeah,
focusing on my relationship spiritually. But I think for others, that can be walking your dog, working out, whatever helps you recharge and be the best you is something you got to prioritize. And I say that because we work in the people business, and what energy you give to others inherently comes back to you. Um, and I
100%.
think 100%. But I think that goes to like answer your question is what ticked in my head that said I want to go start a company. Um, and some might call me crazy because I had a pretty good thing going at my last gig. Um, but I saw opportunity. I saw people that I aligned with wholeheartedly in their vision and what they wanted to do. Transparently, I've always had some kind of entrepreneurial spirit. When I was young, I told my mom I wanted to own a business, and then I got the opportunity to do so. Um, so yeah, I think a lot of times in life, you come up to situations, and there are times where you can say, "I'm glad I did," or "I wish I did," and I didn't want to be the latter. All right, sorry, it was I'm glad I did, or I wish I had.
Yeah,
Better. So, and I didn't, like I said, I didn't want to be the latter. So,
yeah, yeah.
figured I'd roll the dice. I've bet on plenty of horse races before. I feel like I could probably bet on myself.
I mean, look. Obviously, you've got to where you are today, so it's obviously worked in your favor, right? And you've done well. And I think it's just making that move. Okay, it's a risk, but naturally, if you never take that step, you're always going to be stuck to a certain level. for sure. Okay.
You know.
And
And
you're,
then
of
another
course,
nugget there, more on the personal side. I'm sorry, Luke, I didn't mean
yeah.
to interrupt you,
No, no,
buddy.
go on.
My dad and my grandpa both worked for the companies they worked for
Mm,
40 plus years.
wow.
And how it was very empowering, like what they did for our family and providing for us and so on and so forth. But, that was one piece of advice that both of those very influential men in my life had said, hey, don't restrict yourself. Like go out there and like we said, bet on yourself. See what
Hmm.
opportunities are ahead. You can only do this thing one time. So you might as
Mm,
well give it a shot.
yeah, completely agree. I mean, you need to, right? Otherwise, naturally, you're going to be comfortable. I get people each to their own. I mean, obviously, me and you, we can't do that. We wouldn't be happy in that position. But, people get too comfortable in their position where there's only so much you can do. And there's only a level you can get to as well. In recruitment, naturally, you're going to get the mindset where you want more and more, and you're always going to push yourself. And then going back to obviously the business as well. So, like I was saying, of course, that's a lot to build a business, especially in recruitment as well. How have you gone from starting to the business in your desk, building it out? What's been like the three key things that's helped you build it out? And how have you got to where it is today as well?
Another good question, man. I think the first say is like I don't want to say relying on, but more
Mm,
getting in touch with my network. Throughout my career, I've worked my tail off and done a done a really good job of like establishing myself as a trusted advisor in the space. Um, so, leaning on the people that got me there, for, hey, how do you think I can go take this to market? What do you think my angles are? Tell me what, if in a perfect world you had top three things in this kind of supplier, what would we be able to do? And just leaning on them for advice and guidance, I think was huge. There's also some opportunity for business, with some old contacts that I had that hadn't talked to in several years. So it was cool to see that just the lasting impact that I left when we had first engaged. And some of those individuals I'd never done business with before, I just built a great relationship with them and could lean on them, right? Um, so I think, tapping into your network as a recruiter, right?
yeah.
That's what we do. We build our network. We build, networks for people. So, tapping in there. I think the second is just a really specific and targeted outreach strategy. Like how are you going to go to market? Is it going to be email marketing? Are you doing, more of a highly targeted cold call kind of outreach ordeal. Like a lot of this, what I'm talking about is client acquisition.
Mm,
Because at the end of the day, we can be the best recruiters in the world, but if we don't have positions to fill, then we don't have a business,
good
right?
luck.
Yeah. So, um, highly targeted strategy around, client acquisition. And then also, on the back end of that, a very strategic delivery approach. Because that's the other thing is I've seen um, in my days of recruiting. Anybody can start a recruiting company in an LLC. What really separates the good ones from the great ones is ones that can fill positions, fill them effectively, in a good time, and with highly skilled talent. And I think that's what a lot of our industry struggles with is the delivery piece of it.
Mm,
So, I think all three of those things are huge. I mean, I think you can kind of weave network into, the talent piece of it as well and the
mm,
delivery piece. Um, but I think, I guess you could put those, the client act and the delivery in the same bucket. So I would say like your third tip or point that I would make is keep the main thing the main thing.
mm,
And for us, that's delivering high level white glove service
mm,
to our talent and our clients.
mm,
And we do that with a specific amount of rigor that separates us from our competition, right? And that
mm.
you can dive into that different ways. Speed,
Yeah.
quality, all the taglines that every salesperson has ever said. We live
Mm,
in the results bucket. Um,
mm,
and we live in the, hey, we understand your bit broader business problems. That's a huge emphasis on our end is understanding the business,
Mm.
um, because that can really paint the impact that you can make. So all in all, my third point would be, like I said, keep the main thing the main thing. We're in the people business. We're here to serve.
Yeah.
Um, and it ain't rocket science at the end of the day. Let's not make it more
No,
complicated than it is.
no, I agree completely. And then back to it, I mean, it is literally a people business, right? So people buy people. They go to you. They don't go to, okay, the brand does help, don't get me wrong. But end of the day, if you've got a network of people, they want to go to you because of the service you provide, because of how you are with them and the relationship that you've built up. Like that's why in the market, it's a long game, right? People think you're going to see money in recruitment within, 6 months to a year. Okay, you can do, but down the line, you build it up more and more and more. It's like a snowball, builds up over time, and then the network just follow you. And if you're consistent and you build the relationships, they're always going to follow you down the market, and that's where you start building up your game, right?
100%, man. And like I was listening to Jensen Wong on Joe Rogan not too long ago, and you said people buy people, and
Mm,
Jensen was talking about there was a point in their business where, which Jensen Wong is the founder of NVIDIA for anyone that doesn't know, which NVIDIA is probably one of the fastest growing and
massive.
crazy, big companies of today's world. But he was mentioning that he had to build these consoles for I think it was Sony. Don't quote me on that, but
Mm,
they had not been able to deliver on the order. And basically, he was asking the founder of Sony or whoever or Sega, I think it was, to give him $5 million for the order he could not deliver because they could do something with it. And he said he would do it because he believed in Jensen. And so that's the thing is, you can put a lot of strategy and work and time to it, but sometimes you need a little bit of luck. Um,
yeah.
and I think you're so right there.
Yeah, 100%. And it is luck, one thing, but it's creating your luck. You can't just wake up and expect it all to come to you, right? But if you're working hard, you're calling the right people, there it will come your way. And if you keep pushing, especially in recruitment, people think, you know, suddenly you're gonna have a load of clients come to you. No, you've got to call, you've got to email, you've got to follow up multiple times, you've got to stay in touch with people, and then it will come to you. 100%.
Yeah, one thing I tell my team, and I also coach basketball as well, so I tell that team as well, is we got to manufacture our own luck,
Yeah,
right? We got to put ourselves
yeah,
in positions to get lucky, and that's
yeah.
exactly what you were just talking about.
Yeah, 100%. Completely agree. And anyone kind of starting in recruitment today, people that have like you did, gone from college and gone into recruiting industry. I mean, what would be your one bit of advice for anyone that would be starting off in recruitment to help them succeed in the industry?
Learn the business that you're working in. If you're
Mm,
working with construction companies, be an expert in construction, be an expert in the terms that they use. Like really immerse yourself and try to be a chameleon when you're talking to them because at the end of the day, finding people is the same no matter what
yeah.
industry. Yeah, the processes may differ and the terminology may differ a little, but it's at the root of it, it's the same thing. So that's where we separate ourselves is becoming industry experts. And not only is that going to make you better at your job, it's going to provide more value to the client. And that's how you're really going to grow. And that works both ways, talent and client. You got to become an expert. True. And that could be taking some of your own time and using resources like ChatGPT and YouTube and things of that nature to learn. It's not going to be handed to you. You'll learn through conversation, but if you want to really put some nitrous on that car and speed to the
Mm,
next level, use your own time to get better at your craft.
completely agree. Yeah, 100%. That's the thing. People don't think outside the box and they think I'm going to go into work as long as I work hard, I'm going to do well. Can work, but if you really want to get to the next level, like you say, you've got to do that out of your hours. You've got to be at home watching videos, watching the right things, having the right conversations, and your time will come, and that helps boost your career as well. Which, of course, is obviously worked in your favour, and you've done outside the box as well.
Yep. Got to get your shots up. That's what I tell my boys.
Yeah,
That's what I tell anyone new.
100%, completely. Caleb, look, it's a pleasure having you today. Look, I think it's very interesting for anyone watching on, especially wanting to get into the recruitment industry. And second of all, going from the step from having been in a recruitment firm to taking the next step to building your own business. I think it's very valuable advice as well. So thanks for your time today.
Luca, been a pleasure. Look forward to doing it again in the future.
No, definitely. Caleb, pleasure.
See you, man.